Hi, everybody. Joe Chaffee, Fios 1 News, Long Island, Fios 1 News, New Jersey.
And Joe Rayo, Fios 1 News, Lower Hudson Valley, for the first time in, well, actually, first time this week.
Did we do it Monday?
I don't think we
remember.
did. I don't remember either.
No, because we did the Joe and Joe show on
right.
Monday. We did it on my
Cohen.
YouTube channel
Right.
with Dr. Judah Cohen, who is, we'll call him the father of the Siberian snow cover theory. So if you missed out on that, just go to my YouTube channel, and I've put links up on Facebook already. You can always search for it that way. But check it out. He has had some thoughts. We had him for quite a long time, and we explained, what he looks at. It was very informative. But we've got Michael front and center tonight.
Right. Michael is now getting his feet wet off of the Virginia coast, and a rather interesting storm system, Joe, because even though Michael is moving over purportedly colder water, certainly a lot cooler as opposed to the bathtub that it was over the Gulf of Mexico earlier in the week. The storm is going to rev up again and could very well approach hurricane strength, but it's not going to be really a hurricane because it's losing its it's going to be an extratropical type of system.
Right. But we are... I'm trying to get this to pop the radar. Let me see if I can play with this. Hang on one second. Let's try it again. Let me turn the radar off.
And as Joe does that, just let me point out to at least those of you in the Hudson Valley and maybe northern and western sections of New Jersey, that what you've seen so far today in terms of rainfall had absolutely or just about nothing to do with Michael. It was mostly a cold front, which is going to usher in our first real taste of autumn or fall-like weather here, Joe.
You're right, and I put up the surface winds, the current surface winds, and we can actually the low center in southeastern Virginia. So as you said, it is going to be moving offshore. But what's been interesting, Joe, all through the late afternoon and evening, is it's making this transition over into what we call an extratropical or a post-tropical storm. Basically, it's turning into a typical non-tropical winter storm.
Right.
Type of thing. And while that's been happening, this transition period, the profile and the signature on the radar changes, but the wind field also changes. And while we do have some rather gusty winds along the Carolina coast, we also are starting to see some strong gusty winds, even stronger winds on the west side of the surface low than we see on the eastern side. And that is going to probably rev up some as it moves off the Delmarva Peninsula and runs out to the northeast.
Yeah, I think that we're going to be seeing across the tri-state area a noticeable freshening of the winds from the northwest after midnight and especially toward daybreak. And there's a little thing that I've been doing for years now, and it seems to work very well, and that is when I look at the NAM or North American Model FOOS, that's the numerical or tabular data that comes in at 6-hour intervals. When I look at that and I take what we know as the boundary level winds, it's not the winds at the surface, but it's the winds, I would say several hundred feet above our heads, and multiply that by 1.5, those winds give you a pretty good idea of the gusts that we would get. And from what I looked at from earlier today, I think we could quite easily tomorrow see winds gusting to 35 or maybe even 40 miles an hour in the first part of the day.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Even especially along the New Jersey shore and along the south shore of Long Island,
right,
there's probably going to be gales.
And even inland, you may very well hear the winds tomorrow, even as the skies slowly but surely clear during the first part of the day. So that's going to be Michael's main effect for much of the area. Is going to be mostly the gusty winds, although right along the coast, I'm sure you'll get into explanation here, right along the Jersey coast and on into central and eastern Long Island, there could be some pretty good rains too.
Right. Well, we have it on the northern. It looks like the northern flank was expanding during the day. The northwestern flank of the rainfall, and we're seeing it here on the radar. I have the Dover Air Force Base radar, and the circulation around the low as these echoes move southeast to northwest across the Delmarva Peninsula. A lot of flash flood warnings that are popping up there. I just want to see what the rainfall total is. Sometimes with the Doppler it's a little bit tricky. So I'm, they're showing 1 to 2 inches here across northeastern Virginia, but they're playing catch up now because the precip is getting in there late. Here's the rainfall for us so far, and this is with the cold front, with 1 to 2 inches across a good chunk of northern New Jersey. Looks like you did well, even some 2.5 inch plus amounts up north of Middletown, Poughkeepsie, and on up north in maybe northwestern Orange County, points north and west of there into Sullivan County and northeastern PA. It's been less across Long Island, but downpours this evening have put down about 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and also less in central and south Jersey for now, but the coastal counties, I think, Joe, are going to play catch-up in a big way.
Right. I did our FiOS 1 5 o'clock live show, live newscast between 5 and 6. Joe and I alternate with that show on a daily basis, and I had the show this evening, and I had to explain to our viewers in coastal sections of central and southern New Jersey, and also central and eastern Long Island, that while you haven't seen very much, this is the same time while areas north and west inland were getting hit by the cold front. I said, you're going to get your fair share when Michael comes roaring up.
Between midnight and 6 a.m.
Correct.
And particularly, say, between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. That's the time. And they're going to be, coastal counties of New Jersey, Suffolk County, I think, especially central and eastern Suffolk County, maybe less so in Nassau, but some of that rain is going to get in there, and also for southeastern New England. And there could be a quick couple of inches of rain that gets put down in some places.
And that storm is rocketing along now, Joe. The last I saw it was moving at about 25 miles an hour, and that's pretty darn good for a tropical or even an extratropical system, and it can only continue to increase as we move through the night. I think we're very lucky that this thing is not coming straight up the coast, because you combine that forward speed with the storm itself, which is a very
then you wind up with you wind up with some pretty decent, well, let's call it decent wind. But yeah, here's the HRRR going into Chesapeake Bay. Let me just frame it up so you get the time. So this is at 1 a.m. and there's that hook that comes up into the coastal counties of New Jersey and into Long Island. This is at 5 a.m. With the low center east of the Delaware coast. Kind of looks like a, sort of a winter type storm that goes out, and of course this is where you start to see those winds, I think, really pick up tomorrow morning as the low goes by. It deepens it down to an 88, 988 low. It might wind up being a little stronger than that, I think. Water temperatures out near 40 and 70, which is where this is going, are up still close to 80 from the last time I looked, or maybe just a little shade under it now. But still, this is going to get some juice, and you can already see the signs on the radar on the satellite that that it'll probably strengthen a bit.
We'll have something to show all of our viewers tomorrow night, I'm sure, especially with the visible satellite views. This looks like it's going to be a very interesting photogenic type system, as the spirals, once again start coming together, and the thing, as I said, literally rockets away to the north and east. But is there a way that you could put the 3 kilometer NAM up there? Just
sure.
For a second?
Just real quick though, this is the HRRR's wind, the sustained wind. So all the yellow here from Chesapeake Bay right along the south shore of Long Island, that's all sustained at a minimum of 30 knots.
That's pretty good.
So that's all gales here pretty much as the low goes out, and then the winds diminish somewhat late in the day, but tomorrow morning it's going to be gusty.
Right.
And you want the 3K?
Yeah, let's just take a look and see what how the 3K handles the precipitation. I've fallen in love, I believe it or not, the last few weeks with the. I like the 3K better than the HRRR. Now, the HRRR may improve as we go into the colder months.
Right, but the 3K is working right now.
Yeah, it seems to me.
The 3K is really bullish with the wind here. I mean, that the red area, that's all 40 knots or higher, sustained. We're not even talking about gusts, and it even gets gusty over the inland areas on Long Island tomorrow morning, and for coastal New Jersey. So you want to look at the precip?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just back it up. It looks like it lines up pretty well with the radar.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it does show some pretty hefty cells, Joe. Some pretty hefty rains. The band there that runs across Long Island into coastal New Jersey.
2, 3 in the morning. It's Long Island, and it's interesting. at least from the RPM model, which we showed, which I showed on the 5 o'clock show. I said, you folks on New Jersey, you'll be in it like at 3 or 4 in the morning, but yet by 6 or 7, you're out of it. They would still apparently will be getting hammered, at least on the Twin Forks and Long Island. So
it drops the pressure about 6 millibars lower than most of the other models. It gets it down almost to a 980 low.
It's going to be very.
It's going to crank if that's the case. Yeah. Okay. The other thing is that we're going to have a nice welcomed pattern change. I just as a review. This is what it looked like on Monday in terms of the upper air, and you had the big ridge in the east. Those of you're watching at home and you're seeing these just kind of up and down, up and down. So you have just to take you along, going from left to right. So you've got a deep trough along the international date line, big ridge in the Gulf of Alaska, deep trough in the west along 110 degrees west, big ridge in the east, deep trough out in the Atlantic, in the central Atlantic. And this is what we've been in up through yesterday.
Is that Leslie, by the way, below that arrowhead?
Yes, that's Leslie, and I drew in the track. Right, I drew in the track of Michael. Okay, now that's what it is now. This is what it's going to be by the time we get to Saturday, which is a complete 180 degree flip of everything. Okay, the ridge in the Gulf of Alaska moves into the Canadian Northwest. The trough in the central Atlantic is replaced by a ridge because Leslie finally gets out of the way and goes goodbye. You've got what appears to be suddenly 3 big vortexes in Canada that are rotating around each other.
Right.
And one comes by for Saturday, where we get maybe a couple of showers early Saturday morning to bring in a neat reinforcing shot of cooler air.
Right.
Another one's going to come through early next week, and that's the one that you see in the northern plains, which, by the way, is going to make for some snows down in the Rockies and in the Central Plains. Some areas getting their first snows of the season. And big changes in the Pacific with the trough that was along the international date line begins to shift over more toward the Aleutians and extending to just north of Hawaii. It looks, Joe, like this pattern has staying power, that we're going to turn cool and stay cool for quite a while. I mean, it may be over the next 2 weeks, more often than not, that we're going to see temperatures below average.
Right, and it would not be surprising if within the next week we begin to hear, at least up my way, maybe not necessarily for, let's say, Putnam or Westchester or even Orange County, but for places to the north of, let's say, the 84 corridor, it would not be surprising if within the next week we started hearing about frost advisories or freeze warnings or whatever, because it is going to turn rather chilly, if not downright cold, for a time next week. And you're absolutely right about the change in the overall pattern. In fact, for the last couple of months, and I was talking about this with our morning meteorologist Jeff Vanson on his Facebook page just the other day, that the thing that we've seen more often than not are these Canadian high pressure systems, instead of coming straight down and into the middle of the country or into the mid-Atlantic, all of these highs, or most of these highs, kind of just skim to our north from, let's say, Minnesota across the Great Lakes, and then they go
this one's going to be totally different. It's dropping right down into the Ohio Valley.
And because of the fact that we had that pattern of the highs moving north of us, we get into maybe some nice weather for about a day or so at most, and then the high moves to our north and east. We immediately get into a fetch of northeasterly winds, which bring in the low ocean clouds and the humidity. And goodbye. And then we're in that for a few days. And so finally we're getting some nice, clean, crisp air, and clear air as well. And while this little wrinkle that passes by on Saturday morning,
which is right here,
may bring us some showers to start off the day on Saturday. When we get to Sunday, we're going to have what I would think would be a perfect fall day. If you want to go apple picking,
Sunday morning is going to be really cool. It's going to be in the upper 30s and low 40s in a lot of places.
Absolutely. And if you want to do whatever you'd like to do in the fall, it really truly is going to feel fall-like on Sunday for the first time, I think, this season. And maybe you might want to jump in the car and travel north to see the fall foliage, although you're going to have to go pretty far north to get some really good colors.
The next push of cool air comes into the plains Saturday night into Sunday morning, and as it drops southward, you get an east wind into the Rockies. So you got a lot of lift, and we get
Upslope.
into some snow, upslope, and snow into Nebraska and Kansas, parts of Nebraska and Kansas, and even into North Texas and into New Mexico. That high is going to push all the way down. So,
right.
Except for Florida, the cool pattern is going to basically cover a good chunk of the nation, and we might as well put it up because it's there. But this is the first use of the GFS snowfall forecast map, showing some accumulating snows, nothing major really, but except maybe in elevated areas. But the point is that we're seeing the beginnings of this. And in fact, if we look just really quick, because I want to go to the board to see if everybody's got questions. Just pull up all of North America. We're now starting to get into the middle part of October. We're going to see a gradual increase in snow cover, and we're going to start watching closely the buildup of snow cover. This is just snow that falls. We don't know how much of this is actually going to stay on the ground permanently, but through the next 10 days, there's going to be an ample amount of snowfall falling in some areas across central and northern Canada, and of course down in the Rockies. So this starts that building process.
And here we go. As I mentioned on Monday, regardless of when you go back a few years or several years, Canada and Siberia, they had always varying amounts of snow cover at this point in the fall season.
Right.
But the one place that is always seemingly snow covered is Greenland. And Greenland, once again, looks like it's going to...
It's always snow.
It's always
even
snow.
July.
Yeah.
All right, so let's say hi to everybody tonight. We got a nice little crowd tonight, which is good. David Schwartz, off from my YouTube video and now here. Izzy Izzy. Izzy isn't. Cold, crisp air by the door and coming in. And welcome. Matt Boder from Selden. Good to see you there, buddy. Back from the News 12 Days. Scott Briller on. We've got Kim Gabriellini. That's a nice non-Italian name. Christopher Scarpantonio. Phil D'Amore.
That's amore.
Yes. Cassandra Claycomb, Camilla Pickney Price, saying good evening to both of us. William Uberzon, Daniel Kirby, who's on his canoe in the Blue Ridge Mountains. He got another 4 inches plus of rain today. Corey Badzia, good football game so far. You're watching the Giant game. You know what? I completely forgot that they were on tonight. Christopher Tinlin, can't believe we're still dealing with this humidity. Leaves won't be falling off until December. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna maybe take a little bit of issue with you with that, if only because of the fact that at least we're seeing the switch in the pattern now, around October 11th, which is not really that late, as opposed to last year when we went to well into the month of November before we literally went from summertime to the icebox in a matter of about 10 days. So that plus the fact that we've had a lot of rain, and I remember last year, we had far less rain. I think last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe the Leaf season might be a bit better this year.
Dennis Cassius says hi. And don't forget also that the weather is only part of a function of the leaves dropping at this time of the year. The leaves are also reacting to the fact that the days, or the amount of daylight, has gotten smaller. And actually, if you think about it, John, I forgot where I read this. The deciduous trees, the maples, for example.
I remember you mentioned that back.
That around the middle or latter part of August, that is the start of when they begin to shut down. When the leaves start to begin, it's a long process, but they begin to start shutting down in mid or late August. And interestingly, similar way, in mid to late February, the days have already grown considerably longer than, let's say, December.
Right.
They begin the process of starting to get ready to pop out. Although you don't really see that happen for another 6 or 8 weeks, but it's all relative. And again, they're reacting to the astronomical side of things. Now comes the cooler air, and now things are going to start accelerating in the coming days ahead.
Destiny Watkins, as we were talking about with Hurricane Michael when it went into the Florida Panhandle and the red tide, there are a lot of consequences to the fact that this Category 5, almost Category 5, or probably, you look at the damage, at least from what I'm seeing. I'm not trained in trying to figure out, looking at what's on what I'm seeing and saying that it equates to a certain wind speed, but I have to tell you, if it turns out that in post-analysis they make Michael a Category 5 hurricane, it would not shock me, looking at the damage that occurred in Mexico Beach. And I did read that red tide is going to be a big problem. It's been a problem along the west coast of Florida for quite a while now, and it may be a problem there as well.
And technology also in the coverage of this major hurricane. I believe, in addition to flying helicopters, they have also been using drones. I saw a situation where they showed up, I think in Mexico City. What's that one town that was devastated? They have Mexico in the.
From Michael?
You're right.
Mexico Beach.
Mexico Beach. Okay. Why did I say Mexico City? Ciudad. Anyway, they actually showed the school. The roof was ripped off, and somehow or other they were able to fly. You were able to get a view of flying into the school, and seeing the gym, for example, and then flying out the other side where there was this gigantic hole in the wall. The only way I could see them doing that was to use a drone to fly literally in and out through some of the damaged homes. That's one way, or one bit of technology that in past years I don't think they've used, but they really used it with this storm today.
Well, we're headed into a weekend. Let's get through the overnight. Flash flood watches are still up for all of New Jersey. For some reason, they didn't put the two northwestern counties of Sussex and Warren under that, but instead they've got flood advisories there anyway, because most of the heavy rain was early on was up in Northwest Jersey anyhow.
Right.
But the bottom line is that now we're waiting for this sort of last gasp of Michael to come on through here. So again, coastal counties of New Jersey. Corey Bodziak just telling me that there's lightning and thunder where he is in South Jersey. So you're going to get a quick couple of inches of rain from Michael moving out. It's going to get windy tomorrow morning for a while, and then weather conditions will improve pretty quickly. A few showers early Saturday morning. By midday Saturday, I'm thinking it'll go partly to mostly sunny.
Yeah.
And then a chilly night Saturday night into Sunday morning. You're going to go from bad hair weather to maybe even having to put the heat on, although I hesitate to say that in front of you
I'll
right
have to
now.
watch. I'll have to. Well, I have to say that, right? Yeah, that's like Joe was alluding to.
Boiler issues. Leave it at that. Boiler issues.
Boiler issues, or whatever. So we're going to try to figure out how we're going to get through these next several days until the boiler is replaced at your show. Another thing I have to consider also, and maybe some of you do as well, I get well water, and the pipes, I'm a little concerned about, getting close to the freezing mark and having to turn the water off and out in the backyard, for example, in some places. So all of a sudden, Joe, we go from 70s and 80s and late summer, boom, right into
It made low 80s today in the southern half of New Jersey. Weather Wolves asking, are you watching the Yankee game tomorrow? Nice. Nice. You're right. I have not been. I haven't seen. Who was it? Was it?
What's the Giants doing? Does anybody know what the Giants?
Well, I forgot who mentioned it earlier that I answered. I forgot who it was. I just remembered. I think they're playing the Eagles tonight, so he might be an Eagle fan. So we'll just leave it at that, because I think David Schwartz said the way the Giants are playing, be glad that we aren't watching. So I think he answered that question. All right, so let's real fast. We're going to wrap it up. Let me just remind everybody, next Wednesday, October 17th, I am going to be at the Springfield Library in Springfield, New Jersey, and that's at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. So if you are in New Jersey, please do come out and say hi. And it's a 90-minute. I'm usually there for a 90-minute presentation. So by all means, come on out and have your questions ready. And usually, Joe, we run overtime, so they wind up throwing us out of the library, and then we just go ahead and just continue all of the talking in the parking lot. So again, the Springfield Library, Springfield, New Jersey, 7 o'clock. I don't think you have to register, but just check with the library's website just in case. And that's it. That's my last library talk that I have scheduled for this year. So unless somebody asks me to show up at the last minute, I'm done for a little while.
Okay. All right. Well, you need a little bit of a break from your barnstorming of parts of the Northeast. And anyway, so tomorrow should be an easier day, although tomorrow morning should be chock-filled with lots of interesting stuff for weather watchers and weather observers. Then we sweep into what looks to be our first truly fall weekend.
Yep. All right. So we'll leave it at that. You've got Hudson Valley at the top of the hour, FiOS 1 News.
And you've got for FiOS 1 News Long Island and also New Jersey.
Coming up at the top of the hour at 10 o'clock. If you want to look more, my YouTube video is posted also on Facebook, so you could check it out. My YouTube from earlier this evening, and some of the YouTube audience has joined us here on Facebook tonight, like Weather Wolves, David Schwartz, also Daniel Kirby, regulars on the YouTube channel, and you can check out that. I've got a Joe Stradamus post up tonight, also on the long range. You can check that out on my Patreon platform, and I put a link up on the chat with you guys to Patreon for those of you who are interested. And that's it. So we'll see you tomorrow.
Goodbye.